There are certain kinds of pain in life that no one can escape. Illness will come. Loss will come. Aging and separation will come as well. Yet what causes people to collapse is not always what happens to them. It is what they do with those events inside their own minds. Today's story is about two men who suffered the same tragedy, yet entered two completely different worlds. One lived in the hell of resistance. The other discovered freedom in the midst of suffering. And through their journey, they uncovered a profound truth that the Buddha called the second arrow. Along the sacred banks of the ancient Ganges River stood a small village wrapped in drifting smoke throughout the year. There lived two men who faced the same misfortune. A devastating epidemic swept through the village, leaving both men paralyzed in one leg. The first was Mahas, a wealthy merchant known for his practicality and success. The second was Kavi, a quiet practitioner who lived beneath a Bodhi tree at the edge of the forest. Mahas was intelligent, resourceful, and accustomed to controlling every aspect of his life. His greatest fear was losing control over his destiny. Kavi, on the other hand, lived simply and devoted most of his days to meditation and observing the nature of the mind. When the epidemic finally passed, both men were left with the same disability. From that moment on, their lives followed very different paths. Mahas could not accept reality. Every morning, when he awoke and saw his lifeless leg lying motionless beside him, he felt insulted by fate itself. He pounded his fists against his bed. He cursed destiny. He blamed the gods. Again and again, he asked himself, why me? What have I done wrong? How can life be so unfair? The physical pain came in waves, but the rebellion within his mind lasted day and night. To escape his suffering, Mahas threw himself into endless pleasures. He bought the finest wine. He hired the most beautiful dancers. He hosted extravagant feasts that lasted until sunrise. He hoped the music and celebration would fill the emptiness inside him. But when the guests departed, when the lamps grew dark and silence returned to the house, the pain came back. This time it felt even heavier. Mahas realized he was spending a fortune, yet could not buy a single moment of peace. Meanwhile, the villagers often saw Kavi sitting quietly beneath his familiar tree. He still walked with difficulty. He still carried the same damaged body as Mahas. Yet there was no bitterness on his face, no resentment, no anger. This puzzled Mahas. It also made him jealous. At last, he decided to seek out the silent practitioner. One afternoon, Mahas struggled toward the Bodhi tree with his cane. Looking at Kavi sitting peacefully in meditation, he could no longer contain himself. You are crippled just like I am. Why are you still so calm? Don't you feel pain? Kavi slowly opened his eyes. He picked up a dry twig and drew an arrow in the sand. Mahas, he asked gently, if someone shoots an arrow into your leg, would it hurt? Of course it would hurt, Mahas replied. Kavi nodded. Then he drew a second arrow crossing the first. Illness, aging, and loss are the first arrow. No one escapes them. But when you complain, fear, grieve, and fight against reality, you shoot yourself with a second arrow. Mahas fell silent. Kavi continued. The pain in the body is only one part of suffering. The rest is created by the mind. An ordinary person is wounded once by life, then wounds himself again and again through resistance. The words struck Mahas like lightning. For the first time, he realized that the thing tormenting him most was not his crippled leg. It was his endless war against reality. Mahas asked softly, then how do you avoid the second arrow? Kavi watched the leaves dancing in the wind. I do not try to destroy pain. I simply learn to observe it. I watch it come and go like clouds moving across the sky. I do not call it me. I do not call it mine. I simply see it as a visitor passing through. Then he explained more deeply. When pleasure appears, people cling to it and want it to last forever. When pain appears, they resist it and desperately try to push it away. When life feels ordinary, they drift through it in unconsciousness. It is this clinging and resistance that creates suffering. The practitioner smiled gently. But when we create a space between ourselves and our feelings, we begin to see the truth of impermanence. Joy comes and goes. Pain comes and goes. Life itself comes and goes. All phenomena are like waves upon the surface of the Ganges. The body may be wounded, but the mind does not have to suffer. This is what the Buddha taught. Pain is something that happens to us. Suffering is what we add afterward. Majas looked down at his motionless leg. It was still the same leg. No stronger. No healthier. Yet for the first time, his heart felt lighter. He understood that freedom does not come from changing circumstances. It comes from changing the way we meet them. From that day forward, he abandoned his endless distractions. Whenever pain arose, he simply sat still. He breathed in slowly. He breathed out gently. And he reminded himself, this is only the first arrow. The years passed. The house that once echoed with cries of despair became peaceful and quiet. Mahas's leg never recovered, but his spirit found a way to walk again. For he finally understood, we cannot stop life from shooting the first arrows. But we always have a choice. Will we continue shooting the second arrows into our own hearts? Perhaps true peace begins the moment we stop fighting what already is. Life is a battlefield filled with countless first arrows: illness, loss, aging, disappointment, and change. The difference between the wise and the ordinary is not that the wise are spared from suffering. It is that they possess a liberated mind. They accept the pain of the body, yet refuse the suffering of the spirit. When we learn to separate the sense of I from the waves of pleasure and pain, we step onto the boat that carries us toward the other shore. A place here the storms of life can no longer shake the peace within.